A little background about GOSA. During the 2018 general election, GOSA, which is Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Act, was passed. This is the legislation. And the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program, or GOSP, became active in July of 2019. And the inaugural funding cycle opened that year. You will hear me using GOSP and GOSA interchangeably. This is the same thing. Sometimes it's easier to say GOSA. We've had 3 successful funding cycles, allocating over $68.5 million of funding to 38 projects. These funds positively impacted 52 counties statewide. And these projects include 29,000 acres of land acquired. What is our mission? We're here to provide funding for state parks, state lands, and wildlife management areas, support local parks and trails, and protect critical conservation land. You see the mission is conservation of natural resources, and you're going to see this as we go through the presentation. We'll talk about the types of projects that would be more competitive in our program further in the presentation. Where do we get the funds from? GOSA Trust Fund is funded by the state portion of monies received by the state from the sales and use tax collected by outdoor recreation equipment establishments. Before we really kick into GOSA fundamentals, let's go through a couple terms that are important to put a little bit of attention in. If you go through the program manual, the GOSP statute, you see one of the components of the program prioritizes natural resource-based recreation. The statute specifically calls out some examples. These are boating, hiking, camping, fishing, hunting, jogging, biking, walking, or similar outdoor activities. On the pre-application, there is a question asking what nature-based recreation opportunities your project creates. All these activities are listed in the pre-application, and you select which ones your project creates. So the more nature-based recreation activities you create, you have more chances to earn points on this specific question. And also, if you choose other activities, we want you to specify. And for other activities not listed here, we're looking for, again, nature-based recreation, something like rock climbing, bouldering, spelunking, etc. In regards to like traditional outdoor recreation that we're familiar with, such as soccer, baseball, football, or playgrounds, those activities are not going to be very competitive in our program, and they don't fall into this nature-based recreation group. Another term we want to look at is stewardship. You see this recurring throughout the entire program. We define stewardship as maintenance, restoration, or improvement. You see this can include a wide range of projects. I like to call out the word maintenance. By maintenance, we do not mean ongoing maintenance of a site. That's the entity's responsibility and their long-term obligation. We're not looking for proposals for 2-year worth of regular maintenance. That's not what we're looking for. And what we mean by maintenance is like if you have a facility that needs a lot of attention and you're proposing to revitalize it, that's the kind of proposals that falls into this maintenance category. Let's talk about the structure of GOSP. We have a board of trustees. This is the body that accepts, evaluates, and approves project proposals in accordance with priorities established by the GOSA legislation, as well as any priorities established by the Board of Trustees for any specific funding cycle. Once the Board of Trustees approves the proposals based on the availability of funding, it becomes a slate that moves to the Board of Natural Resources for second approval. The slate of projects will then go to the State, House, and Senate appropriation subcommittees. So here you see there are 4 levels of approval required before we can announce the finalized approved projects. The Board of Trustees has 11 members, and this is the makeup of the members for your information. This is the funding cycle timeline. It is a pretty lengthy process. You're going to invest more than a year beginning today by attending this educational workshop and signing a project agreement in summer of 2023, if approved. Application for outdoor stewardship grants is a 2-stage process. The pre-application period opens on August 1st, and you have until October 14th to submit your proposal. However, you can open our program manual available on our website and start crafting your proposal today. All the questions that you will see on the online application portal are currently available on our manual, so you can see what we're looking for. Also, there's a blank sample of the pre-application on our website that you can download or print out and see the questions in there. Upon completion of the pre-application on October 14, we'll start our review and scoring process. The first step of project approval takes place in January Board of Trustees meeting. But as we mentioned earlier, GOSP requires a multi-step approval process, and since we do not know the appropriations subcommittee schedule, we cannot give an exact date for announcing the winners. That's why we say spring of 2023 for announcing the approved projects. We'll send out the invitations for second-level applications after announcement of approved projects. The second stage closed on May 30th, 2023. We'll go into the specifics of that second level later on the presentation. After that deadline, we'll review all the documentation, and the grantees must attend financial workshops before signing project agreements with DNR. We anticipate signing project agreements in summer of 2023. Who can apply for outdoor stewardship grants? Qualified local governments, and they must be in good standing with the Department of Community Affairs. Constituted recreation authorities registered with DCA are eligible. All state agencies and non-governmental entities are eligible for our program. Please note that we're targeting specific nonprofit organizations. Eligible non-governmental entities are defined as any nonprofit organization on file with the Secretary of State, primarily concerned with the protection and conservation of land and natural resources, as evidenced by its organizational documents. When we're reviewing you as a non-governmental entity for eligibility, we'll need your organizational documents and mission statements to show that you're primarily concerned with conservation and protection of land and natural resources. Maybe your articles of incorporation, certificate of registry with the Secretary of State, or 501c3 status. Those kinds of documents that show your mission can be uploaded into the pre-application portal as proof of your eligibility. Please note that if you're not sure whether your NGO is eligible to apply for outdoor stewardship program, please verify it soon. We don't want you to spend your time and resources to fill out an outdoor stewardship application while you're not eligible applicant. You can send us your organizational documentation and we'll let you know if you're eligible to apply for GOSP. Situations that can make an applicant ineligible. If you have active or previously awarded grants through DNR, which are currently deemed inactive by the department, this makes you ineligible. Here, we're not talking about a pause or delay in closing a grant due to acceptable changes. When we say inactive, for example, we mean you had a grant in the past that was abandoned, or your entity never finished the project and did not complete all the commitments to it. This situation is going to deem an applicant ineligible. Again, if you're not in good standing with the Department of Community Affairs, you will be ineligible for outdoor stewardship program. Local governments and recreation authorities may contact DPA to verify if they have met the criteria and are in good standing. Here is the link that you can check your status of your local government. This link is also available on our program manual. Let's talk about the funding amount. The minimum funding request is $500,000, and you can request up to $3 million. This is the amount of grant you're requesting, not the total project cost. Why the amounts are so high? We want to promote the regional significance piece of the program. We're looking for proposals that have the greatest impact, and one way to ensure that is to have a robust funding opportunity. There's a minimum match requirement. That's 25% of the project cost. GOSA is a reimbursement program. If selected, you do not get all the money upfront. You must have the financial capacity to pay for project expenses prior to being reimbursed by grant funds. The grant term is 24 months. From the date DNR signs the project agreement, you'll have 24 months to complete all the project elements. There are also loans available through Georgia Environmental Finance Authority if that interests you. We just talked about the minimum match that applicants are required to provide, and that's 25% of the total project cost. You can commit to larger amounts. The more match you commit to, the more point potentials you'll earn on the first pre-application question, which asks about your match amount. These are hypothetical examples on the screen showing the breakdown of project values. In these examples, the applicant commits to minimum match of 25%. You see that match must be 25% of the total project cost and not 25% of the requested grant. Now, common sources of match. Applicants cash to pay for eligible items such as engineering, construction costs, materials, equipment rental, all those items are acceptable sources of match. Also, in-kind donations are common sources of matching funds. Volunteer hours are eligible for match. Professional services such as legal services, engineering, etc. may be donated to the applicant, as these are great sources of match. Please ensure that you reference the GOSP program manual, as there are limitations on hourly rate for both unskilled and skilled labor. Materials. If any entity donates materials that are directly related to your GOSA project, you can include them as match. We've also seen land donations that can also be in kind, but please note that for a donated land to be counted for match, the transfer of property must occur during the 24-month project agreement. meaning after you sign an agreement with DNR. We get this question very often. If you acquired a land last year or a land was donated to your city or county in the past, the value of that land is not eligible for match and cannot be included in your total project cost. Here's some information about match eligibility. To qualify for match and also reimbursement, an expenditure must be directly related to the project and have occurred after the signed project agreement date, but before the maximum 24-month project completion period. There is an exception for some match items. We understand that you have to do a little footwork to determine whether you should apply or if this project is feasible for you. So we're going to give you a little credit here. We can accept expenses like appraisals, engineering, grant writing, and environmental compliance reviews within 18 months of the project agreement effective date for match only. We cannot reimburse any amounts that has completed before the project agreement date. These are for match only. You can go back 18 months from the anticipated agreement effective date, which is summer of 2023, and include these expenses in your project budget for match. Total of these expenses must not exceed 15% of the total project cost. Here's an example to clarify the math for you. For a $1 million project, we can accept match up to $150,000 for those three categories if occurred within 18 months of the agreement date. Let's move on to reimbursable costs. Expenditures directly related to the project that occurred after signing project agreements are eligible for reimbursement. Here are some examples. Construction costs, material, equipment rental, land acquisition, design and engineering, legal fees for acquisition. These are all examples of reimbursable expenses. Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program will hold back 25% of each reimbursement request until 25% of the total approved grant amount is reached. Upon completion of the project and all required documentation being submitted to us, that 25% retainage will be released to the grantee after a final audit and inspection is conducted. We just talked about eligible items for reimbursement and match. Here we're going to talk about items ineligible for reimbursement or match. Regular ongoing maintenance of a property is not an eligible expense for match or reimbursement. That's the responsibility of your entity, but not part of GOSP proposal. Your admin costs, GOSP cannot pay for the admin staff on your payroll. Food, beverage, or travel, these are ineligible, as well as any indirect costs that are not related to the GOSP proposal. Consulting services are not eligible. The only exception is grant writing, as we defined it previously, and we can accept that for match only. No large equipment and large tool purchases. Yes, we can pay for small equipment directly related to the project, such as a shovel, but we cannot get you a backhoe, a bulldozer, or similar large equipment. Hourly rentals are okay, but no purchases for those big equipment. Grand openings, we cannot pay for ceremonies or events. Items paid for outside of the project agreement dates are ineligible for match or reimbursement. Any work completed before the project agreement date or after the 24 months is ineligible. Also, we do not want design or planning only projects. There has to be something tangible. At the end of the 24-month agreement period, we want to go out there and see your project.